So, a quick word about today's video. We went to London to meet up to make a film, which couldn't happen because the place was shut. So we went to the museum and it was very last minute and all very plan B. And we made our own films when we got there and didn't really talk. So I'm really sorry that Dave doesn't really feature much on this film. But we're going back to London very soon and he will feature quite a lot. So for now, back to the film. Please enjoy. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another video. You find me today here at Liverpool Street Station, where I'm going to be meeting a fellow YouTuber by the name of the Wandering Ponderer, because today we are doing a collaboration. Wow. And there's his train just pulled in over there behind me now, so let's go and see if he's on it. And there he is over there with the hat on. Jeff. Well then, ladies and gentlemen, if you leave me to sort something out, this is what happens. We've arrived in London, we've met up, we've gone to where we were going, and I'm not going to say where we were going because we'll have to go back. And guess what? It's closed on a Monday. What can I say? No, so we're considering doing something else, if we can think what else to do. 2 YouTubers in London, I mean, come on, can't be that hard. So we're going to have a rethink, and when we've thought and rethunk, I'll come back and tell you what we're going to do. Well then, ladies and gentlemen, we find ourselves in Covent Garden. This is what technically is known as Plan B. Realistically, it's called scraping the barrel because you couldn't think what else to do. But we're heading towards the London Transport Museum because we're both train buffs. So we're going to see if we can get in there. Let's go and have a look. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Plan B has come to fruition. We are now in the amazing London Transport Museum, where we're going to learn all about London transport. So, let's go and find out. Well then, ladies and gentlemen, here we are inside the London Transport Museum. I've wanted to come here for years and years and years, but I've never got round to it. Now I'm here, and I'm with my buddy David. How you doing, buddy? You looking forward to this?
Yeah, I am definitely.
Yeah. It's gonna be fun, isn't it? So there's lots to see and do here. So we're going to take you with us, starting right behind you there. Look, with whatever that interesting train is over there. We're going to go and find out all about it. So this beautiful piece of equipment, which sadly we can't get in, but I can show you there, is Metropolitan stock from 1922. This is actually a locomotive. Around about this time, they moved across to putting all of the stuff that makes it a locomotive under the floorboards to give us the modern look of trains that we have now. But this obviously predates that. This, on the other hand, is a much more modern, I think this is Q stock from 1923. Before we go past, here's one for our buddy Jeff over in America. Now, he will be the first person to tell you that that will not be an accurate clock. That will not keep good time, because in this country we didn't need them to keep good time. Basically, it's in America they had to be accurate for reasons I'm not going to go into now. Over here they didn't, but all the same, what a beautiful thing. Right next to his whistle. Let's go and have a look at this beautiful 1923 stock coach.
Oh look.
These were the first, I understand, to introduce sliding doors. This is the first stop with sliding doors. Prior to this, they were the old slam and bang doors. So here we are, ladies and gentlemen, inside the 1923 stock. And I think those guys are from the 60s over there. Look at them. But I can remember later stock than this when I was a kid. I really can. This doesn't look that different. Although back then, obviously, there was still ornamentation going on, which you don't get anymore on trains. Ornamentation's a thing of the past, sadly. Oh, I thought he was one of the models. Lady just walked past, I thought she was one of the mannequins. Very difficult to tell. But again, look at the wood. They've used wood in here. And you'll see later that this actual design and this colour scheme didn't actually change an awful lot through the years, and we'll see more later. And you can clearly see that despite the fact it's an old train, the actual design is in place. They've gone from locomotives to all-in-ones like we have here. To give them their proper name, they're actually cars. They're not actually carriages, they're cars. Because way back in the day, London Transport, as it was then, was owned by an American. So, ladies and gentlemen, what we're looking at here is a model showing the technique used for cut and cover. The idea was early underground systems weren't dug in deep tunnels as we expect them to be now. They actually cut a trench along the road, and then they came along, put the tunnelling in it and a roof on it, and that was it. Job done. Later on, when modern tunnelling was invented, because London clay is perfect for tunnelling in, deeper lines were put in, but the cut and cover method, largely imported from America and other countries, was used this way. I recently visited Budapest, and the A line in Budapest is second only in age to the Metropolitan line, which is the oldest metro line in the world, and that is also cut and cover, except our cut and cover is deeper. Their cut and cover, the roof of the station is about a foot below the road surface. It's incredibly thin, but that's the cut and cover method. We'll be going down there in a minute. Look at that. Look at the old buses. There's trolley buses, there's trams. I can see a route master in the difference. But for now, I've seen a steam train, and I like steam trains, so I'm going to go in that direction. My colleague there with his equipment. How you doing, my colleague? Excellent. So, ladies and gentlemen, steam trains were originally used before electric trains. Now, I expect a lot of you know that, but there'll be some of you thinking, how do you use a steam train in a tunnel? Well, you use a condenser. A condenser takes the steam and turns it back into hot water, and what we have here is a condensing steam locomotive. If you look at the pipes coming from here, look, the exhaust steam from the cylinder box here is transferred up this pipe, across here, where it's condensing, and it refills the water tank that we are now walking past. I mean, obviously they still produce steam, but a large proportion of that steam was actually turned back into water, allowing these to operate. As you can see, the cab is open on this train, but then as they're underground, rain wasn't really an issue. But we can have a look at the cab here. Look at that beautiful equipment. Isn't that just stunning? Oh, beautiful. But yeah, so that is a condensing steam engine. If you're interested in anything I'm talking about, do let me know, because the ticket I've bought for this place today is actually a year's ticket, so I can come back. So if there's anything I don't cover or anything you'd like to see, please do get in touch. Anybody who's been on the underground will know it's a hot place, and that's with electric trains. Imagine what hot it would have been like stoking a fire on that engine, travelling through those tunnels with a blazing hot fire stuck in coal. It says here, look at this. We work 10 hours, 10-hour days, 8 times round the circle. That's the Circle Line in London. In the summer, you could hardly breathe going through the tunnels. It was so hot. I had shoveled 200 weight of coal in a day's work. And that's a dirty, hot, sweaty job. That's George Spiller, who was a district railway fireman in the early 1900s. Now again, as we just were looking at the earlier trains over there, we saw the development of a locomotive into the modern design that we still have today, and this pristine train obviously predates that. What did the steam train pull? Well, remember I mentioned the old clash and bang doors? Well, here we are. This is exactly what would have been pulled along. I think I recognise the man stood in that one. But as you can see, this is more reminiscent of what you would actually see on a normal overground train, which of course the Metropolitan line was for a lot of its distance. A lot of the Metropolitan line was actually out in the country, Rickmansworth, Watford, out that way. Only some of it was in London, although they did later expand eastwards through London with the use of the cut and cover mentioned before. But originally, Baker Street was the terminus. They had classes, so this is obviously a Metropolitan third class train. And in a minute, we'll go in and we'll have a look at what it's like to sit on an early Metropolitan carriage. And here we go. So I'm entering now the carriage. As you can see, it's not an awful lot of difference. There's my colleague. There's not an awful lot of difference between what we have here and what you'd have on an early steam railway. I mean, anybody involved with steam railways would know this. And you can also date this, because if you look at the maps, they're pre-Harry Beck. When I say Harry Beck, the modern train map that we use in London now was designed by Harry Beck. I've forgotten when, but I'm sure there'll be an exhibition about his stuff here, and I'll find out and I'll tell you. But prior to that, that's what you use as a map. Aren't they lovely? I love these. What do you think?
I think they're great.
Yeah. Now, of course, there was a safety issue, because once the train left the station, if you were a lady travelling alone, which again it happened, and there was a gentleman of, shall we say, less than honest stature enters the coach, for want of a better term, then you're stuck. Anyway, I think that other people want to come in, so we're going to have to depart this one now. I'm departing. Something close to my heart. Railway clocks. LTB stands for London Transport Board. And here we are. Look, I was talking about ladies in these coaches before. The Metropolitan Railway actually introduced ladies only coaches in 1874 to address concerns over women's safety. 1874, and they had those concerns back then. Ladies only carriages were reintroduced in 1931 and lasted until 1961. Recently, the Mayor of London has made it clear there are no plans to reintroduce them ever. Also, if you notice these curved doors, I understand that's to allow room for a top hat when travelling in London. And here we are, here is a ladies only coach containing ladies. Hello ladies.
It's Miss Marple.
Actually, I got that wrong. This isn't a towed carriage. Let's go and find out about this, because I can redo the voiceover if I get it right. Here we go. No. So this actually is a Metropolitan Railway coach from the year 1900. It was one of a group of coaches designed to be hauled by steam locomotives on the Metropolitan Railway. Built in Birmingham by the Metropolitan Carriage and Wagon Company, it was converted to electric working in 1921. So about the same time as that early locomotive we looked at. It was then changed back to steam operation in 1939 for the shuttle service to Chesham, where it stayed until the line was electrified in 1960. So, ladies and gentlemen, this beautiful wooden coach was actually in use on the railway until 1960 as an electric train. Cool, what would it be like if you were stood in the station and this pulled in? Wouldn't that be great? What we have down here is a gold bus. Look at that. Ah, that's 1939 stock, I think. Yes, so there's more railway engines and coaches to look at downstairs, as well as trolley buses, and there's lots to see, so let's carry on going, shall we? So, ladies and gentlemen, we are just going to go upstairs now, because if I pan up over the incoming train, there's another level upstairs. We're going to go there and work our way down. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen, arriving on the upper level. I don't know what's here, but we're going to go and find out. I just want to show you this window. Look at these windows. How cool are they? Right, so this is London in 1800, for those of you who aren't aware where we are. I'm panning across, there's St Paul's. Skyline's changed a bit since then, hasn't it? This is a very early form of transport, ladies and gentlemen. This gentleman here is sat in this contraption, which is dutifully run through London by these two chaps. I've got to say the mannequins are realistic in here, aren't they? And then if you move up a scale, this is a horse and cart.
Oh, moving mannequins.
Clever stuff. Okay. Oh, here we go, after you.
Hey, Jim.
No, my colleague, after you. Right, here we are. It's actually quite dark in here, but the roof is all covered in like a red felt, velvety surface. You see, the seats are the same, and it is very comfortable. I'm going to go and see if I can engage this young lady in some conversations.
Excuse me, you lady.
Can
Is Mr. Darcy here bothering you?
Can I just ask you a few questions for the channel, please? See, back in those days, you didn't need pictures in newspapers because you read them. Well, look at that. That's what we were just sitting in, an omnibus. And the driver, or I think you call him a driver, would have sat up there. That was his seat. And then the horses would have been attached by a harness to these points here. This is a swivelling axle, obviously, at the front, allowing it to turn corners. Now this one here will carry 24 passengers because it has an upstairs deck. I don't know if I can get high enough. Now this is being drawn by two horses. I suspect the first one we approach would be as well. This is Dobbin, and this is Dobbin as well. They all had the same name. Now what I'm going to try and do, ladies and gentlemen, is I'm just going to stop recording because I want to show you the upstairs of these buses. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to attempt to show you the upper deck of one of these buses. There you go. That's what it looks like up top. Sadly, we're not allowed up here, so I'm having to put my camera on a pole. These things are absolutely beautiful. You see them in all the old black and white films trotting around town. This is Victorian exhaust fumes, slightly more healthy than our own. Also notice that this isn't a bus. This is actually an early horse-drawn tram because it is actually running on rails, look. It is not running on wheels, it's running on tracks. We go around the back, the typical external staircase that you often had on these, to an upper deck which was quite high. But they're very bare and basic seats in there. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is the locomotive from a City and South London line, and it's the oldest locomotive and underground train in the world. As you see, you wouldn't want to touch that. Safety wasn't a big thing back in those days, but the interesting thing about these is they pulled these around, often known as coffins, because of the lack of windows. It was thought at the time that people didn't want windows because they're underground and there was nothing to see. The size of the coach and the shape of the coach was developed because of the size of the tunnels they ran in. They were very unpopular, and they didn't last very long before they actually replaced them with coaches with windows. The seats aren't as comfortable as they look, I can tell you that for nothing. That gentleman's still wearing his medal from the First World War.
Gentleman there is sleeping off a hangover.
Yeah, I think he's sleeping off a hangover. Interestingly, you'll notice there's also no doors on these, and I'll show you why that is. Initially, tube trains were entered via a platform at the end of the coach. Do you remember me telling you earlier on how these things were developed quite often from American engineering and ideas? Well, this was the ingress and egress method. Just like that, you would get off this platform, and each of these had a railway worker on it, opening and shutting the gate and letting you on. So obviously one at each end. How many coaches? That was jobs, wasn't it? That was work for people. As I said once already, this coming here today was a plan B. So it's a cursory look round, really, isn't it, Dave? We're just gonna kind of check out what's going on here, and I will be coming back. I will be coming back to do a much more in-depth look at this place because I think it's fascinating. There's so much here to see, and we've not got time to do it today because I'm going to have to go back to Hammersmith on my bus, and Dave has a home he has to go to as well. But we will come back. Now that is a bus.
Trying to find the steam version of this.
So we have some more modern buses here that people may recognise. This is the RT. This brought about a lot of design features that were later incorporated on the world famous Route Masters, RMs. When I was a kid, we used to get on these. They went up and down the Uxbridge Road from Uxbridge to Shepherd's Bush, the old Route Masters. They're great, and a lot of people, there's a lot of these in preservation. There's places you can go and get a ride on them. In fact, I believe around London there are still tour companies, who take you around London on them, and they're a great bus. They really are a great bus. You had the driver sitting in a cab at the front on his own, like here. That's where the driver would sit. The engine's below him, you access the engine from here, and it's not until you get back here that the passengers start. And of course, in those days, you had a clippy. The clippy was the man who came round, took your money, and gave you your fare. I believe you can go upstairs on this one, so we're going to go and have a look. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's a bit dark here, but I'm going to show you a view that I remember very clearly. Yeah, I remember it like it was yesterday. The string up there, if you pulled it, it rang the bell to tell them to stop. So the passengers would be in there, and when he wasn't running around the bus collecting tickets, the clippy would stand here under the stairs, which is where I'm stood now. He has a bell that he can ring here to communicate with the driver. He can help people on and off. And of course, back in the day, you could jump off and on. Just like these people are here now, you could jump off and on the bus. And often, you wouldn't wait for the bus to arrive at the bus stop. You would just hop off. Now in these woke-ridden times where we're so risk-averse, even the modern versions of this have got a door. Not the same. So, let's go upstairs. This is where we always used to go as kids. Okay. And here we are upstairs. And that's the back seat.
There's
Everybody wanted to sit in the back seat. It was where you sat. It was the best place, especially when I was a snob, which as teenagers is the sort of thing we did. Notice the wooden floors, the beautiful Routemaster maquette.
Yes, please.
And the windows went up and down on a winder. You wound that handle round furiously to make the window go up and down.
It was always a mad rush to get the front seat, Gabriel.
Well, it's funny because where I lived, the mad rush was for the back seat.
Oh, that with your girlfriend. But
That's the one.
front-
Ah, yeah, that's the one. I used to have them in those days. Not anymore. Thing of the past. I think this might be a special edition one, but much as I like this, ladies and gentlemen, look at that. That is absolutely stunning, isn't it? And here's where the driver sat, again, out in the open. None of the mod cons that you expected to provide today. And as we can see, this was made by Leyland Motors. Back then they made things that didn't break down. Coming around here, and here we can clearly see where the driver sat and his very basic controls. I mean, you've basically got some pedals, a couple of switches, a steering wheel and a rather large handbrake. That is all you needed. Ladies and gentlemen, in front of me is what's commonly known as a London taxi cab. To give it its proper name, it's an FX4. These things signify London as much as a Routemaster. You've got two of the hugest icons of London transport right here in front of us. We've got the FX4 and we've got the Routemaster. This is the one. Oh, this is an FX4S. This is a special. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I had a friend who owned one of these and he rather foolishly let me drive it, but hey, I didn't bend it. They're lovely to drive and they turn on a sixpence. You literally can almost turn this car in its own length. They were famous for that. In fact, I believe it's a requisite of taxis. It was, I don't know if it still is, a requisite of taxis. They had to be able to do that. This one certainly could. Ladies and gentlemen, the FX4, the Routemaster and the RT, icons of London. If you're out and about and you see these buses and you think to yourself, is it an RT or is it a Routemaster? Because they do look very similar, as you can see here. The simple difference, the RT has an upright grille, the Routemaster has a more side-to-side grille, and the Routemasters always have a prefix of RM and these always have a prefix of RT. But as you can see, the design, actual look of the thing didn't change a lot. It didn't change a lot, but obviously the Routemaster was a much more modern bus. So talking about buses, we got some more old buses over here to go and look at. Let's go do it. The tram. Now we've seen a horse-drawn tram, and again, I'm sure we've all seen the footage of these things whizzing around London in the old black and white films. I'd do that job. In fact, I wonder if I could volunteer to come and stand in one of those as a mannequin. But here we are at the other end. Now the driving controls on these were even simpler than the early buses. You basically had a go lever over there, which basically you decided forward or backwards, and you had a brake which you put on by turning clockwise. That put the brake on. And here you can see the control panel that the driver used to drive this bus. Now, these didn't turn round. So it got to its destination, and just like a train, the guy would pull down and would remove the electric catenary up the top, and you come back up the other end. And as you can see, this is a complete copy of the other end. There's the controls, nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. So these would go one way, then they would go the other. And as the seats ran down the side, it didn't really matter. Upstairs where the seats don't run side to side, the backs of the seats were hinged. So when it was going that way, they were hinged back this way. And when it got to its at the end, the ticket collector would go up and he would turn all of them round to point the other way. Some people, of course, actually turn them to face and make four-seat bays. But that's wonderful. And as you can see, even up there, look, as you get to the top, there's a door up there to get into the upstairs compartment. Sadly, we're not allowed in this one, which would have been nice. Now then, the old London bus. We've seen it before, and we'll probably see it again. This again was the first real London bus to hit the streets. Now this was the military version, because a lot of them were taken off to be used on the front. And as you can see by the paint job on this one and the blacked out windows, this has actually gone abroad. This is a Type B bus. Now these Type Bs had many uses. They were used as ambulances, they were used as troop carriers. Some were even converted into offices for the officers to sit and plan campaigns from. But it was basically a London bus with the windows, as you can see there, blacked out. And of course this Type B bus is the bus that started bus design in London. Everything came from this. Now this is what's called a low loader taxi. And you can see for why, look. When you get your butler to bring the cases out, he will put them on this part of the taxi here, which didn't have a door. The driver sat next to it over there. You were separated in a passenger compartment at the rear. But they were called low loaders because obviously you could load these onto this bay. Now, this, I believe, is called by London taxi drivers the box, this area. And it still exists on that FX4 we saw. It has a door on it, but there is no seating there. The driver sat alone. I had a friend in Liverpool who drove a taxi for a living. For some evenings I'd go out with him for a laugh and I'd sit in the box. They call sitting on the box, just to keep him company when he's driving around. The passengers in the back don't even know you're there because they can't see you, because obviously you're sitting on the floor. Most people don't have luggage at night, so we could get away with it. But the development, just like the buses, you can see the development from one to another. I mean, this looks completely different to a modern FX4 that we looked at, but everything's there. The engine's in the front, you've got the box, you've got the driver, you've got the separated rear end. Bring that forward to the more modern design and it's still a taxi today. Likewise, I mean, this Type B bus, you've got a driver at the front, you've got a crew compartment and you've got an upstairs. Okay, it's a long shot, but that's what we've got now on a double-decker bus. Nothing has changed. The actual concept and the idea has been in place for a long time. Now this is a trolley bus. Now trolley buses are a combination of tram and bus. The idea being is you still have overhead lines, which you can just about make out there, which are picked up by a pantograph on the top of the bus. This one has double back axles. Now the idea being is this is actually an electric bus before the days of modern electric buses. So it's all been done before. Now the idea was this was driven like a normal bus. It meant traffic on the roads wasn't clashing with trams like this that couldn't move. This could stop, this could pull over to one side and get out the way. And if you're not sure what it is, it actually tells you on the front, it is a trolley bus. My mum remembers these clearly. Now again, here, you haven't got the single cab, but you do have a separated off cab, which is much bigger. As we go down here, you can see the interior doesn't look terribly dissimilar to the RT, and it doesn't look terribly dissimilar to the Routemaster. In fact, if I come round here, look, if you look here, that could be the back end of a Routemaster or the back end of an RT. There's the place where the clippy stands. He's got his bell, there's the stairs going up, and there's the entrance to the cabin. And what I'm going to do now, we're not allowed to board the bus, but I'm going to put my camera in here, just so that you can see There's not a lot of difference between this and a Routemaster or an RT. In fact, I believe, I mean, look at the length of that long one at the back, the long settee couch. I believe there's actually a bit more light in this. But again, here we've got the development of the buses. As I was saying, once you've got the basic shape, look, the development is piecemeal. You go from this to this to this. And by the time you've reached this, you've almost arrived at the RT. There's not a lot of difference. So you can see a lot of this development, and here's one of those black and white scenes we were talking about. You can see the various types of buses there. Sometimes there's horse-drawn in amongst this, but you can see how busy the road, yes, horse-drawn. You can see how busy the roads were, how busy they were. This one was owned by West Ham Corporation. Well then, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this spontaneous visit to the amazing London Transport Museum here in the heart of Covent Garden. I've really enjoyed coming here. This is somewhere I've wanted to come for a long time, but this has been a rather ad hoc visit because I didn't know I was coming here. I thought I was going somewhere else, and I'm not telling you where that is because we didn't get to go there and it's going to be a secret. But my colleague here, who's with me, we suggested this and thought it was a good idea. So I am going to come back. If there's something you haven't seen here that you want me to particularly look at, let me know.
Thumbs up if it's a good idea.
Thumbs up if it's a good idea, yeah. And the more you give thumbs up, I mean, I'm going to come back anyway because I just bought a ticket for £1 and it lasts me all year. Now, if that's not good value, I don't know what is. It's been fantastic coming out with my friend Dave here. We will be coming back out again because we've got to go back where we didn't go today, haven't we? But for now, I'm just going to say ta-da from the London Transport Museum. Bye-bye.